In this movie, we're going to pick up where we left off from our previous one. We've gone ahead, rendered out all 3 different looks to 3 different folders. Now we're going to import those back into Resolve. Let's start by jumping into the media page. I've navigated down to the desktop where we've got our exercise files. And in our exercise files, we did our renders. And you can see that DaVinci Resolve has went ahead and added those subfolders as I instructed. What we're going to do is pull them into a new folder here in the media pool. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this Approval Renders. Next, we're going to right-click on Hero Shots version 001 and select the option Add Folder and Subfolders into Media Pool, Create Bins. And that's what it's done. So I now have this nice, neat folder structure replicated in here with each of our different looks of the exact same sequence. Let's start with the duotone look, and let's jump into the Edit tab and create a new timeline. To do this, I want to separate out this timeline from the other timelines I might have created. These are just approval timelines. So that's what I'll call this. I'll call this Approval Sequences. Then in the Media Pool, I'm going to highlight the first of these clips, Command A or Control A if I'm on a PC, to select all. Right-click on any of these and come down to the bottom and instruct it to create timeline using selected clips. There are no in and outs that we've selected, so I'm going to uncheck that. I am going to rename this timeline Duotone version 1. Create new timeline. And it's been pulled up. And I don't need audio on this. I don't want to render out audio. So I'm going to hold down the Option or Alt key on a PC and drag just the audio clips. It'll allow me to do an audio only. If I don't hold down the Option or Alt key, it'll select audio and video. So Option or Alt and drag and select and then delete. So I've deleted all the audio. So this is a pure video only timeline. Now I'm going to come into the color page. And the first thing I notice, if I Shift F, I got this weirdness going on. What's going on? Well, I've got a burn-in on top of a burn-in because I haven't turned off the burn-in from the previous render we did. So I'm going to come into the burn-in palette. Before I reset this palette, I'm going to save this as a preset in case I want to call it up again. So I'll highlight Standard Burn is what I'll call it. Plus, adds it in, and now I've got this as a pull down whenever I want it. But what I'm going to do now is reset and get rid of it because I don't need it. I've got them already burned in from the original render. Now, of course, before I render this out, I would normally just sit here and play through and take a look at everything, make sure it all looked good, and make sure that there were no mistakes or any problems. And now what we're going to do is come back to the Deliver page, and I'm going to clear out these renders. And now instead of a round trip or export to workflow, we're going to pull up the video sharing export, which sets us to single clip. And remember, the reason why this single clip option is available to us now is because we're no longer needing to do timeline filtering in order to get our hero shots here in one continuous timeline. The rest of this, I tend to leave the same. If I find the quality isn't good enough, I can always kick up the data rate. But 10,000 kbs should be enough. I generally drop this down to 720. It makes for a smaller file size, and it's usually perfect for something like an iPhone or an iPad. Export audio. I will include audio even though I deleted it, so it'll just be silence. And I'm going to change this to using the timeline name, which if I come to this pull down, I got to open this up a little bit so we can see the full name. There we go. It's Duotone version 1. Yeah, that works. So we'll go Duotone version 1. And then I have to decide where to render it to. So we're going to render it again to our exercise files, renders, and approvals. And now I'm going to right-click on the approvals folder and add a new folder. And this will be self-contained to client. And that's where I'm going to put any movie that I send to the client that's a self-contained movie will get dropped into this folder. I'll click OK. And then before I add the job to the render queue, right now for some reason it's only set in and out for the first shot in this timeline. So let's select this to render out the entire timeline. Add job to render queue. And now this process I just went through with the duotone, I'm going to go through and repeat it for the other 2 timelines. But there's one other thing I'm going to do, because while I'm rendering these out, I think I also want to create a higher quality backup, just in case, because sometimes I have clients who ask me for a high quality ProRes version. So I will create an additional output using this option, and I will set it for QuickTime, and it will be ProRes 422. And the subfolder I will put in here as ProRes 422HQ. And having added this output, now you can see I've got this multiple file sequence in here showing me that I've got several different outputs to several different codecs. Now I'm ready to add the other two timelines and then click Start Render. And that's it. That is the entire Hero Shot workflow. It took us 15 chapters to get to this point, but it pretty much used the entire tool set of DaVinci Resolve to make this happen. Once my client takes a look at this, we're going to have a long discussion about what elements they like, what elements they don't like, and which of these different kind of looks that I developed, maybe they want to fully implement one of them, or maybe they want to take bits and pieces from each of the different looks and scatter it throughout this music video. In our next movie, we're going to take a look at the finished music video. We're going to render it out, and then we're going to pull it into Premiere Pro to show you how that whole process works when we finally take a finished project and need to hand it off back to editorial.